All right. Well, doing a live stream. This is a review of Returnal on PS5. It's actually exclusive on PS5 by Housemarque. They did, what was that called? I should have done my homework. The PS4 launch game that was like the side-scrolling shooter had all the crazy effects. You know, they're known for kind of having games with old school gameplay style. Let me show you real quick. Here's some gameplay. So what it is, it's like a third-person shooter, but roguelike, a lot of looting. But even though I would say I'd explain the game as having modern gameplay mechanics, it plays out like a classic-styled game. All right, let's look at some of this. So here's some exploration before we get into the combat.
Evidence of rudimentary xenotype language discovered. Currently lacking resources to decipher this xenoglyph.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of the story elements that you could see, although there's a lot more to it. You know, because the game starts where you crash on a planet, and then you're just exploring a procedurally generated level. And then when you die, you just repeat, you do it again. You explore to find various artifacts that have a lot of story involved with it, but also a lot of it, from what you find, goes towards your gear, your loadout, your leveling up. So let's get into some action. Let's see. So you see the adrenaline reset. That's when, so as you attack enemies in the game, when you don't get hit, you're just getting buffs and bonuses constantly. Some of them are, you know, your weapons are more powerful. You can see where enemies are through obstacles. But as soon as you get hit, it removes all that. And so the game plays, again, like an old school shmup, you know, R-Type or Gradius, where, you know, you would build up your weaponry, but as soon as you hit, you lose it all. And so that's kind of the core mechanic of this game, even though it's built around a roguelike. But I would argue that, you know, roguelikes have existed since, you know, Gradius, R-Type. Because when you die, you have to start over again. You lose all your equipment. In those games, there wasn't persistent stuff going on here. Here, there is a lot of persistent upgrades, XP, etc. Yeah, another thing to notice is the in the middle where I've actually went into the options and made it bigger, but that little active reload is what they call it. It's the cursor in the middle. So once your bullets run out, it's not really a reload. It's kind of like called overload, because it's more of your gun has overloaded, and then you have to then time pressing the trigger, you know, right when it's in its little square now, or rectangle. Now that's another element on top of what we were just looking at. So as you kill enemies, you gain more powers, but as you hit your overload correctly, you're also getting a buff there as well. I've noticed it expands the rectangle, so you have a larger area to hit that in. You know, my suggestion when playing this is to not press the trigger, but hold down, because if you keep pressing it and then you overload, you'll then trigger the overload before you hit it in the rectangle. It's hard to explain, but it's just another layered mechanic, again, of modern type of gameplay, but with an old school shooter feel. I shoot in a tree. All right. Yeah, I just picked up some currency. I think they're called obolites or something. Yeah, they're down at the bottom. You kind of see the yellow. Is it showing that? Yeah, but what that does is it allows you through your run to buy upgrades so that you can prepare yourself for a boss. Because that's the key here. Once you beat the boss, it allows you to then move to the next biome. But you'll still want to go back to the first biome. You know, you die, you'll start there anyway. And to loot, explore some more. There's other things that you can go back to the first biome, or I should say, as you progress in the game, when you restart and repeat previous biomes, there's more unlocked that you. So you know what? Another old school game to add on to this is Metroid. It feels a lot more like Metroid than most roguelikes that try to add the Metroid in. Because even though the maps are procedurally generated every time you're into it, it's kind of the same structure. It's just laid out a little differently, so you know what different rooms are available in each biome. You just have to get to it. So, you know, that's another part when it comes to the boss battle. The bosses are really hard, and it's really just like an old school shmup boss battle where you have to memorize the patterns. So while you can run around in the first biome and explore, beef up your character to then go and fight the boss, I've learned that if I just run straight to the boss room, you know, once I've leveled up my character as much as I can, there's only so much you can level up your character before you should move on to higher, or, you know, to the next biome. So it gets to a point to where you want to just go to the boss over and over and over just to go through the patterns. That way you've memorized it, and that's really all it took for me, is instead of trying to explore through an entire biome and get all the best gear, I really just kind of quickly, just went towards the boss room, even though I have to wait to find the red door. But along the way, I found enough power-ups where then I was able to beat the boss, and it was really just by not getting hit. And I think I saved the gameplay. I just need to upload that. Yeah, let's see what else is going on here. You know what? I've got another video. Actually, I can. Was it this one? Yeah, this might be a little more interesting. All right, so I'm about to use my melee weapon. You actually get a sword that unlocks after some time. And while there is a secondary fire, I haven't even talked about the shooting mechanics, but there's a secondary fire on the left trigger. So the PS5, kind of some of the exclusive features are using that adaptive trigger. So you can pull the trigger, not all the way, but it will still stop, and that's how you do your aim. That's in most modern games now. But you can then use a little extra pressure and pull more, and that initiates the secondary, or the alt fire, which you use the right trigger to shoot. You just have to pull down all the way to manage that. But the secondary fires, the alt fires, they all have different mechanics to them. Some can destroy these red shields, or I think one can. Otherwise, I use my sword, and I do that primarily. And so really there, the key was to go around and get all the turrets with the red shields in that room, just so I don't have to worry about them shooting me. They're kind of rapid fire. And then we just saw one another's, the little green pickups. They're for health, and there's also other mechanics that come with health that I haven't fully explored yet. Yeah, it seems that there's a bunch of different pickups that do different things, but one interesting element is that some of them have parasites. So while you might get a buff in a certain area, it will actually detract a certain attribute. It could be less firepower, it could be damage on falling, other little things like that. But some of these pickups you get can remove the parasite, give you health, etc. Yeah, and with these guys, and actually let me just mute for a second. I can just turn it down lower. I just can't hear myself. But you notice I was doing a lot of just running to the enemy and attacking them. You know, that took me some time to get that down. These guys are a little tougher because they fly around the chute, but then they have like this homing attack. So you have to be really quick. There's no waiting around in this game. You really just have to attack. And you know what? At this time when I was playing, I was really bad at that overload, that active reload. I got it there, I guess. Now you can see there's all these little homing shots coming out because I've upped my guns. Has enough buffs on it where it can do kind of that extra. So that thing I didn't pick up, that's a consumable. There's consumables that do different things. Yeah, some will give you a shield, some will give you health, and sometimes that's kind of good to keep in mind, like for a boss battle, if you come across a health kit. And so at the bottom left, right above the health, my mouse isn't showing up in the live stream, but that's the area where your consumable would be, and once you beat the first biome, it unlocks the second one, which is very helpful. Yeah, that thing is hard to kill, but there's a stagger element, which I love. That's a Dark Souls type thing. I mean, other games have done it, but that's just another modern gameplay element. The sword, you can stagger with the guns, but it's the sword that really, it takes down a lot of health. Even the bigger enemies, I'll just go at them and start just whacking away as long as I know there's no one around me. But so another interesting thing about this game, and I'll just keep it going. It's what $69.99 on PS5, so it's a first-party game. You know, and it's the new generation, so the games are a little more expensive. There is, I think, a $79 version, deluxe version. I don't even know what was in that. But I think, even though I think that's really expensive, I think I've already made that back in time. I guess that I've put a lot of time into this, and I've just gotten to the second biome. And this is just a fun game because it's kind of old school, but feels fresh with the controls, and you can actually play it very differently each time. So you can decide to sit down and do runs where you just want to explore, get loot, find upgrades, not really mess with enemies, maybe dispatch them quickly, maybe move on, and if you really want to chill. Or if you want to kind of take it seriously and it feels a lot like a Souls-like where you know, it's where you want to go to the current biome you're on, see if you can explore the whole thing, get all the upgrades you can, and then try to beat the boss without dying. I think it's easier to run straight to the boss over and over and over, memorize the patterns, and not even really memorize the patterns. It's more of that muscle memory of trying to dodge the enemy. Is once you start seeing the key indicators that there's going to be an attack, it's very easy for me to be like, okay, I need to move over. And yeah, so I totally think this game is worth. If you have a PS5, you have to have this game. I wish that this was on more consoles or more platforms. A lot of the games from this developer are amazing, but they're always limited on their consoles. I think they did a game called Outlanders. I could be wrong, and I think that was on multiple consoles, but. I mean, I could just keep talking, actually. Really,